Oh, all right, folks. This week we are talking about VINs, not Vin Diesel.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about family.
Man, you just steered that thing right into the ditch. Golly.
That's another take.
I'm not starting over. Screw it. We're going from here.
We're going for it.
This is the beach we're taking today. So what we're talking about is vehicle identification numbers. Like I said, not Vin Diesel, although we could talk about family if you really want to. And what brought this about is my friend Bill Rodersham and I were talking the other day on the telephone, and he said, I really want to know more about my Camaro, which that we haven't really worked on in Lord knows how many months.
It's a slow process.
It's a slow process. You gotta let these things marinate. But what I found was something that was vaguely distressing, and that is that there really is not a ton of information available prior to 1972 on General Motors cars. In 1972, GM went to a different VIN system on their cars, providing the owner with much, much more information than you get from 1971 all the way back.
It's pretty much before then. Yeah, it's a car.
It really is. You have a V8
Yeah.
or a 6.
Something close.
We don't know which one.
It might use all of them.
And that's the problem you run into. So for instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a picture of a vehicle identification number on a General Motors car prior to 1972, and I'm going to go through what's on there. Now, what you have with those is it basically gives you the series, which is the model of the car. You get the engine, and it was only whether it was a 6 or an 8. And then you also have the body style, which on a Camaro, it would either be a convertible or a sports coupe. The assembly plant. And then you finally have the sequence number of the car, and that's all you got. You didn't get anything in the VIN. Everything should be on the body tag, which is where the rub lies. Because if you don't have the body tag, you're not going to know anything about the car. Cam and I were talking off camera. What was it you said?
It can be a one of one. It's the only one that I ever made.
So basically, if you only have a VIN number, you can make it whatever you want. No one's going to believe you, but you can make the car whatever you want. And that's the real problem with General Motors. That's, I think, why some of the GM stuff is so, it's about provenance on those cars. You have to have a build sheet.
Yeah, you got to have all the information.
Because the guys at General Motors, they do have a Heritage Society that you can go to. With the Heritage Society, you can get almost anything you need on Camaros built after 1976. Such a big pull.
Ones before that weren't important. nobody likes those.
Color commentary from your friend Cam. And that's the problem with it, is you don't really have anything more than that available through anything like the Heritage Society. And that happens with a lot of the GM marks. And I really don't think that the big three, back when they were building these cars all the way up into the 70s, I think they were just trying to get as many cars shoved out the door as they could. You got to remember something, folks. When they're building automobiles, they're not building these cars to make cars. They're building these cars to make money. Therefore, rust-proofing wasn't a big issue, because in about 4 or 5 years, they really wanted you to go buy another new car.
They only want it to last until the length of warranty.
Just so long. So that's a real problem. And so the heritage information, suddenly now we've got guys in my age group and younger even still buying these cars up, and they want to know about them. They want to know what the car originally came with. Even if they don't stick with that, it's kind of a neat thing to know. So you have that problem. Now I'm going to talk about, that. We've got that out of the way. We're going to talk about the Mopars next. Mopar is a little bit better. They're more like a Ford VIN on the earlier cars. They do have more information on it. Now, I'm showing you a picture of a Mopar VIN. I've obliterated the serial number. I found this one on the internet, so please be advised that we don't have any Mopars in our larder here. It's not that we don't like Mopars.
Can't afford them.
It's really about a financial situation.
A Mopar and the quality of the Ranchero is still $10,000.
He's right. The Ranchero we're showing you right now, that's Logan's car. That's a $10,000 Mopar.
All day.
All day. Doesn't matter what you buy. I mean, it's
Survivor.
It's a survivor. More like a zombie.
Yeah, something.
Anyway, what do you keep doing this to me for? So on the Mopar, I'm going to show you the VIN right now. What we've got is you have car model, you have price class, body type, engine, model year, and sequence number. Now, the cool thing about Chrysler is if you have one built prior to 1968, they have information on it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any information on 1968 and newer. While GM said in 77, GM said in 77, let's go do this. Chrysler's like, nah.
Chrysler had to drop the cocaine and said, oh, those guys are doing that now. We can't do it. We gotta be different.
What am I gonna do with this dude? So anyway, that's the thing. You have that availability on those cars. And then we're gonna talk a little bit now about Ford and what goes on with that. Ford was pretty good after 1967, and the only reason it was pretty good was a lady named Lois Eminger.
Mm-hmm.
Lois worked for Ford in the legal department in 1967, and she was a big Thunderbird nut. She loved Thunderbirds, and so she was looking for information for a customer on a 1955 Thunderbird and went to the archives department and said, hey, I need this information. And the guy said, nope, threw it away.
It's gone.
And so Lois was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, you're throwing this stuff away? And they said, yes. And so what she decided to do then was get the information, and the only thing available for Ford, with a few exceptions in the Thunderbird line, is 1967 on up.
Yep.
Lois, I got an invoice from Lois ages ago, back whenever, I think it was in 1995 or 6. She had an ad that was in Mustang Monthly magazine, and I contacted Lois and I said, hey, I'd like to have a VIN. I don't know this for a fact. I mean, I remember this thinking this was the way things were. She had envelopes with 50 invoices in them for everything 1967 all the way up through the early 70s, I think, like 74, 75. I'm not sure on the date on that. I'm sure if you know the information, please put it in the comments below. I'm not going to be mad about whether you tell me I'm wrong or not. In any case, I'm almost positive Lois had to go and go,
Like open up a gigantic Rolodex.
a big 40-foot tall Rolodex and go, like the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I was about to say, you gotta spin it like the Wheel of Fortune. Or the Price is Right.
Yeah, Price is Right, not Wheel of Fortune. So you are just wrecking this one. So anyway, Lois got me the information I needed. And back then when you got it, she just sent you the build sheet. So I have for the 72 Mach 1, since we've moved, I have no freaking idea where it is.
Somewhere.
It's somewhere in all of this. So we have the build sheet for that. Now, as time went on, Lois got older and she really wanted to kind of get out of the game. So she sold everything to Kevin Marty. Kevin's a good friend of mine. He runs Marty Auto Works. If you have a 67 on up Ford, Kevin can get you set up. If you guys are interested in seeing over on Manic Mechanic a video on what are the weirdest Fords built between 1967 and let's just say 1973, we will put something together with Kevin Marty and do a video on what those Fords were like, because I want to find things that are like, you know, a purple Torino wagon with a 429, things like that. It actually exists. I know where the car is. There were things like that that were built, and those things are documented through the Kevin Marty reports. In other words, you can get the owner can get a Kevin Marty report. You can't get a Kevin Marty report
On anything.
on anything. You have to have verification that you own the vehicle, that the vehicle's in your possession. So that's the only way you can get it. Now on the Ford side, for the VIN information, it's a little more descriptive, but not a ton more. I'm going to show you the one for the 69 Fairlane. Basically, you have the year it was built, the assembly plant, the body style, engine, and then the sequence number. Now keep in mind on most all of these, sequence number doesn't mean that there were this many Camaros built and your Camaro is this one. They were building other things on that line. I don't know if General Motors did this, but Ford was like, they would have Falcons, Fairlanes, and Mustangs running down on a Dearborn assembly line, and they were pulling parts and putting those on those cars. So it's a sequence number, not the actual number of Mustangs built in 1967 or the actual number of Fairlanes built in 1967. So just keep that in your mind. If you have unit number 436, it's the 436 Ford off the Dearborn assembly line for
In
that
that
year.
time frame.
In that time frame. So you're not looking at being number 456 of anything else. You may be number 3 in the Mustang line, but and I'm not going to get off into that. Again, leave a comment in the section below if you believe I'm wrong. The way things have been going here lately, it probably
We're always wrong.
wouldn't surprise me if I am. But what I want to talk about now is what all that means. In other words, everybody wants to know VIN numbers. On the General Motors side, it's a little more problematic. But I mean, even on a Ford, if you don't have the door tag,
Yeah, you're kind of SOL.
yeah, you don't know unless you have something like if you
Yeah.
got a 65.6, you need that door tag.
Yeah.
Your car, yours is somewhere. It's in all this.
Who cares?
It's in all this. But what I'm saying is the door tag really lays out on the Ford side of things
What it was.
a little bit more information than what you're going to get out of a General Motors. One of the things that distresses me the most about the Camaro behind us is that all you have is the body buck tag that's underneath the hood on the firewall that tells you what it has. Like, we know that this car is a V8 with a manual shift transmission, and it was Daytona yellow with a black vinyl roof.
Yep.
But that's just the information that's on the buck tag. We don't know what manual transmission. It could have had a 3-speed originally.
3-speed, 4-speed, none.
Although I figure because of the hump, I don't know if in 70 they had column shift, but earlier cars had column shift.
Yeah.
So let's just say they had column shift in 70. And I apologize, I'm not up on the 70s as much as some of the other cars, but it's got the 4-speed tunnel hump in it, and it looks original to the car. It's the same yellow as the floor pans. You know, it's got the overspray on it, so I figured the car
Yeah,
was a
it looks like it was
3-speed or
original.
3-speed or 4-speed manual on the floor. But we don't have any way to outline that, because on a Ford, you would have that in the VIN information. You would look at it and say, okay, I've got a 69 Boss 302, and the VIN code would tell you under transmission what transmission it had.
Yeah.
Whether it was a wide ratio or close ratio 4-speed. And same thing with the automatics. You wouldn't know necessarily that it was a Police Interceptor C6 with behind a 428 cover jet,
But you know it's an automatic.
but you know it's an automatic C6
Yep.
because it has the correct code for that. It even goes into the rear axle stuff on the body tag on the Ford side of things, because it'll tell you that it's a W. Let's just say, I don't know what the W is, but like if it was a number, it's an open rear end. If it's a letter, usually it's a traction lock.
Okay.
Okay. Chrysler's kind of the same way. I mean, they really line theirs out, but it's the same problem. And they were pop riveted on.
Real easy to change those.
Real easy to change them out. And that could be a real problem. I mean, if somebody can figure out how to go out and stamp those,
Yeah.
you could take a car that doesn't really have any base information on it and make it whatever you want. Same thing with the GMs, is like you said, you can have a one of one.
I can make this a collector car
You can
real
make
fast.
this a collector car real fast because it's a V8. You find a V8 chassis and then you put in these like a 396, that makes it very rare.
Yeah.
And your problem then is provenance. You don't have all the information, so you're not going to get as much money,
Yep.
but you're going to get more money because it's a big block car.
Yeah. Someone who's looking to buy a historically correct original car is going to want all the information.
All right, not like, for instance, weird cars that would bring a lot of money. I had a friend of mine, Rick Kirk, that lived up in Ripley, Oklahoma, and I wish I'd bought this car. He had a 70, I believe, Calypso Coral, Vermilion, whatever color it was in 70, I don't remember all the names, 429 Super Cobra Jet Ranchero.
That's pretty rare already.
Bucket seat, console, hideaway headlights, laser stripes, Magnum 500s, and it was a drag pack. The thing that made this car super weird, which would not show up on the build information unless you had the build sheet from Kevin Marty, was the fact that it was an AC vehicle. It had air conditioning on it. You could not get air conditioning on a drag pack.
Yeah.
But Kirk had a letter from the guy who originally bought it, who was the plant manager at one of the Ford plants.
Ah, that explains it. I can get what I want.
He wanted air conditioning on his drag pack car. So he got air conditioning on his drag pack car. And he has a letter that says, I am not holding Ford responsible for anything that goes wrong with the air conditioning on this vehicle. You can imagine my surprise, because I knew all this stuff back then. I went over to Rick's place, and sadly Rick's passed on. He passed on a few years ago, and he'd already sold the vehicle. But anyway, I went over and I popped the hood on this Ranchero, and there's a big block 429 with the oil cooler set up on it. And I'm thinking, why is there an air conditioning system there? I started looking at it because I thought, this is bogus.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to look at all the lines are Ford original, everything's Ford original, everything going into the firewall's original. But he has the provenance of the letter. He probably even had, I don't know if he had it then, but he had either the Lois Eminger report or the Marty report on it.
Yeah.
So he would have had all the provenance on the vehicle. And at the time that Rick sold it, I don't think they were bringing tons of money, but then there's that Torino that recently went for really big bucks. It was a Cobra. So now those things are starting to bring more money. The more information you have that's correct information,
The more people would be willing to spend on it.
yeah, and I mean, like I said, if you had a 70 Camaro Z28 and you have the build sheet for it, you manage to pull that out of the vehicle, you're going to be able to get more money than this car, which is tarted up as a Z28, which was the way Bill's brother bought it when he bought it new, or bought it back in the day. You're not going to get any money for that because it's just a bunch of badges on a car.
Yeah, there's people that are going to be looking for like the Concours and the all original stuff, and the information is definitely needed to get those kind of people interested.
The other problem you run into with this too is and on the GM side, it becomes a case of you needing to know the insider information when you're buying one of those cars or when you're looking at something like that.
So you don't get duped.
Yeah, because I mean, there are unscrupulous people in the automotive world.
A lot of them.
Who knew, huh? It's like the politicians lose work, so they go on the automotive side of things. Did I say that out loud?
No.
Okay, good. It's just internal dialogue. That's good. So you need to know the internal information and the insider stuff. You need to know, like on the Camaro Z28, like Nasty, I think it's Nasty Z, NastyZ28.com really has a very nice laid out setup from 1967 to about 71 or 72. They may even have more stuff on there, but those are the ones I've researched. And like they'll tell you, hey, the Z28 needed to have a pedal that was mounted to the floor. Yeah. The rear sway bar was bigger on the Z28. All that kind of little stuff becomes way more important on those cars on the GM side for Camaro than it is on the Ford side, because you can go get the Marty report. And to me, it's worth it. If I'm going to go buy a 428 Cobra Jet Mach 1 or a Torino or whatever,
yeah, it's absolutely worth the price.
It's worth the price of admission to know if. And usually, a lot of guys will have the Marty report. First thing you do is you just ask him, "Do you have a Marty report on the Torino or the Mustang or whatever?" And he'll go, "Yeah, sure, I've got it. Here's the Marty report." So, Mopar side of things, it's kind of like the GM. There's guys out there that really know.
Yeah, you got to know the secrets.
Yeah, I mean, there's Graveyard Cars, the guy there, he's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other guys. You can go out and research it to find out who you need to talk to about what was available and what wasn't available. Very, very esoteric, and it's a really cool line of cars. The Mopar stuff is really awesome. But boy, howdy, you need to know your stuff, because those cars, generally speaking, run a lot more money.
Yes.
We weren't kidding. A Challenger that's in the shape of the one behind me, if it was a 444 speed car, you're going to pay $10,000 for the bloody shell.
Yep. If it's anything possibly special.
And that's just the way it is with the Mopar side of things. One of the reasons we haven't brought a Mopar in to do one, I'm going to tell you right now, my wife
loves them.
Charger 68.
I think she'd sell every one of your cars to buy herself one.
That's not funny.
But it's
because
not
it's
wrong.
probably true. I mean, everything's gone. But look at the Charger we got.
It's
and it looks
purple.
like the Ranchero.
It's gonna be so cool when you fix it.
Wait, what? All right, folks, that's our little video for this week, man. We're not doing a whole lot. Like I said, we are moving. We just finally got our house up on the market. So if you're interested, if it's still available,
it has nice garage space.
Lord hope it's not. Ridgemont is now no longer our primary location. We are now moved over here to Blanchard Road in North Augusta. We do allow visitations, but just let us know. And do something else for me. This is really becoming very important, because we are losing market share, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. We're kind of losing market share because YouTube has changed the algorithms. And so little channels like us, and I know we're not little because we have a lot of people in our channel, but
view-wise, we are little compared to the big ones.
Yeah, it's good. We're not over 1 million viewers. We're not over even 100,000 at this point. We're running toward it. Subscribe to the channel, because it's the best way to know that we're putting a video up. You are not going to find us in your normal list if you're not subscribed to the channel, believe me. So subscribing is important. If you don't want to watch that video, you don't have to. It's really easy. You just kind of blow on past it. But at least you know we're out there. So subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notification. Another thing I'd like for you to do is go out and check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me on Zoom with a bunch of other people. I try to help you offline as well. I am doing my best to answer all tech questions, but if you have my number because you're on Patreon, you can call me and I'll do my best to help you with what you need to know. We also are doing videos now because Andrew needs something to do. I mean, he sits around in a pool in a little floaty a lot. So we've got to get him out of the floaty.
It's time to be an adult, Andrew.
It's time to grow. Blossom out and be an adult. So anyway, that's our show for this week. You guys do me a favor. Be nice to each other. Be kind to each other. Love on each other. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next time on
AutoRestomod. Man, it feels nice.
It is not, the tent helps.
Yes.
We're under a tent today because we don't have our awnings that we're going to be putting up. There's a lot of cool crap that's going to be happening right here.
Yes.
Seriously. Full 36 by 30 shop back behind me. We have the concrete poured, obviously because we have cars sitting on it. Plenty of space to work theoretically. This is going to be, as they say on Cobra Kai, badass.
Yes. More space for more projects.
That's not good. Hey, I'm really worried about Deanna finding that charger.